Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Geek First Review. My name is Travis Snell. Oh boy, Toy Story 4 is here. And before we get into that, we got lots of stuff going on. Check out everything. E3 is pretty far away now, but check out everything we did there. Some great casting for all that. Taylor just reviewed Chucky, so check that out if you want to see a different toy movie, a very different toy movie. Me and Dylan just reviewed the last season of Jessica Jones and did a Marvel Netflix ranking. We ranked the seasons, we ranked the characters, we ranked, what was the other thing? Villains. So that was lots of fun, a big closing chapter on that. And then July 19th, the 4-year, 24-hour stream, we're going to be playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order, probably the whole way through. But that is, we're coming on 4 years. We thought, what better way? We've been talking about that game since the cast started, and it's our 4 years, so why not do a 24-year anniversary kind of celebration? So look out for links on that. Just follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You'll get details on that in the next little while, where we'll be. I'm not sure if we're going to be streaming Twitch or Facebook, what the deal is. We got to figure all those details out, but that's why you go to the social media. July 19th, it's going to be tons of fun. I don't think there's anything else to plug. Spider-Man's coming up. We'll be doing that. I think Taylor's going to be doing an Annabelle review, so that should be fun. X-Men polls are on Facebook tonight, or yesterday was like Quicksilver versus Storm. Thank goodness my boy Quicksilver is winning, so go check that out. Let's see. We're doing a Spider-Man fan cast draft. If you've checked out all the other drafts before, it's going to be pretty similar to that. It's just I can't reveal it yet, but we're casting a bunch of characters that we'd like to see in the MCU Spider-Man with the actors, and it's like a kind of like a fantasy sports draft like we do, where let's say if I wanted, we were casting Spider-Man, I wanted Toby back, but Dylan took him. I can't pick Toby, I got to pick someone else. So there's some gamesmanship there. So we got tons of stuff dropping the next little while. So the best thing to do is subscribe. And thank you to everyone who's been reviewing us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts now, because we're trying to get to 200. We've gotten a lot recently, and we've got a lot of positive ones recently as well. So thank you. I know we got a lot of new people still from Endgame, but we really appreciate that. We wish we could correspond and talk to you guys on there, but we can't. So whether you listen to this or you're on our social media, we thank you, and we very much appreciate you. Toy Story 4. Now, if you've not checked out a review before, what we do or what I do, because I'm all alone. I'm not alone. I got Buzz, so and then I got Woody, who's hatless. It's just me shamelessly showing you, my shirt. I have some really cool Pizza Planet shoes. It's just showing you my cred of Toy Story. Saying, oh, this little scrub, this nerd, he knows nothing about Toy Story. I'm going to do non-spoilers. I'll give you spoilers. It's Toy Story. There's not, it's not like an Endgame where we have to break down for an hour or so. But there's some stuff. There's some big things that happen in this movie, and I'm excited to talk about it. Okay, so Toy Story. You got to prepare, when you do those solo casts, there's no one to break you for water. Every time I shoot water, I should pull Woody's string. No, that'd get extremely annoying, I think. Toy Story. If you're new to this cast, or it's your first time listening, I'm a massive Toy Story fan. I think, you know what? We always joke about certain fans or whatnot, but I could honestly see myself top 5, or maybe even I could claim myself as the biggest one in the world. I love Toy Story. Those dolls I just showed off, those are like the life-size replicas that I paid over hundreds and hundreds of dollars for. They're like the exact size and the exact size of cotton and things like that. I still got to get Bullseye. I haven't got him yet. This series it came out obviously when I was a youngin', and this was the thing I watched the most along with Batman and wrestling. I loved Toy Story. I love them all. And that's not a rare thing to say, but everyone I think has a different Pixar or a different, Disney one. This overall is one of my favorites. I could make the case for this being the greatest trilogy of all time. I think there's a tie with Lord of the Rings. But I could go back and forth to give you reasons why one is better than the other or whatnot. But if I think about what is the best trilogy, you could easily say this is number one, and I couldn't fight you on it. And many times I think about it's my number one. Love the characters, love the world, the growth of these characters over these 3 movies. It's never felt out of place. It's never felt like we had an addition that was a little less. For me, when I rank Pixar, it's always those 3 above. Those 3 are perfect movies for me. They're all 10 out of 10s. I love those movies so much. And it's just been with me with a lot in life. Especially, I think Toy Story, talk to me for a few reasons, because obviously Buzz and Woody, great characters, got other great characters, but I was big into action figures. I'm the guy that I'm not playing with them, but I couldn't throw them away. They're, in my attic. I got about 3 boxes of like all superheroes or wrestlers or this or that, of all these action figures that I can't throw in. I was a big action figure guy. And and it's just that same thing as far as Andy. This series has always been with me. So when they announced, it's not a rare thing to say either, when they announced Toy Story 4, which Toy Story 3, perfect ending, I was quite worried. I was quite worried because we did have that perfect ending. I didn't think we needed any more, and I did think that the team behind it a couple months ago said something that did start to turn me around, even though I was so worried. They said that was the end of Andy's story, but this is the end of Woody's story. And that's very much this movie, but still, obviously I didn't know that going in. Any franchise that you love and there's a new edition, at least myself, I get nervous because, I'm not that person who ruins the rest of them, but you know what? It can still kind of hamper it a little bit. It can still, things like Star Wars prequels for me hurt the original movies because it's those characters, and I still love those trilogy of movies. I put them up there on the greatest trilogies all time, but there's certain things where like, I know that story and it's not great, So you don't want a bad addition of something you love, because if you think about it, you go, I didn't like that. I love Toy Story because when I think about it, I just love everything. I love those 3 movies. I own all the shorts. Everything about Toy Story I love. So I was very worried, and I was also very worried because I don't know if I'm in the minority. I think it's growing now, but I felt like at the time when they both came out, with Finding Dory, I thought was fine, all right, but I would say disappointing, but I was not overly disappointed because I was not big time into Finding Nemo. I really like it, but it wasn't like my Pixar movie. Incredibles, big time into that, and that was very disappointing. I was probably, me and Dylan were the only ones. I thought for a while it's definitely grown, but Incredibles 2, one of the most disappointing movies of my life. So lately they've been putting out movies that, even though they said that quote, I don't know if we need a 4th one, and then just lately they put out movies that I thought were lesser quality as far as the sequels go. So I sit down in the theater, and of course, I'm getting excited. Excuse me, I'm getting excited. And I do love this movie, but it's not the same as those other 3 where I say it's just flat out perfect. I think this is a great addition. I think it does do what they say when they're talking about that they want to end Woody's story. I really think it does. In a fitting way, in a you can't say perfect maybe, but perfect for me, because perfect could be, it's kind of like that debate of Luke Skywalker, right? Of, and it's, maybe I should not say, I don't want to get too specific, but they've said in the, trailers, the whole thing is about Woody dealing with a life after Andy, and this movie is really weird and it's awesome, but they ask some questions about just like life in general, like spiritual questions. They have these villains that are, it's very deep, and it's surprising for Toy Story because the villains, for the most part, they get like a little motivation and that's about it. And they're off to the races. You got Sid, just pure evil kid. You got Stinky Pete, who he hates kids. You got Lotso, who was turned away from a kid. I'm not going to say what happens with this villain, but Gabby and the things that surround her, a fantastic villain and something that I was not expecting with this movie. But this did feel, the way I put it, and it's in the title of this episode, is this felt like a Logan for Woody. And that has pros and cons. And I don't know if it needed the cons. And that's where my hang-ups go, because I feel that I did not get enough of the rest of the gang. And I did not like some of the choices they did with Buzz. These are not choices as far as if you listen to our Dark Phoenix review, I'm like, oh man, that was brutal. They're just little things. This is still a movie that's great. I still love it. I was crying multiple times. I was enjoying myself the whole way through. It just wasn't like the other 3 where I go, man, there was this and there was this. Like, I shouldn't say that. I should say that I would think about the whole movie and not have any negatives. I'd be like, oh, I didn't really like that. I had that a couple this time. I'd say humor for me worked almost for the most part, but there were some, and maybe I'm hoping on a rewatch it will, but I guess the best way to sum it up, and I'll get into spoilers in a little bit here because there is some things I do want to talk about. The best way to sum it up is every time I watched a new Toy Story, Toy Story 1, and then Toy Story 2, and then Toy Story 3, I always felt, man, this is the best one yet. I didn't get that feeling with this one. I got this is a great movie. This is a great chapter in the Toy Story world. And the thing is, the ending, I'd say like the last half an hour of the movie, not just like the last 2 minutes, the ending overall might be my favorite ending of Toy Story. So that's what I mean. It gives a great conclusion to the series. We can say for the last one if they want to continue. Who knows? Because everyone thought 3 was perfect, and then they carried on, right? So I'm not going to put it past them to do that. Toy Story is a big world. You never know, and this is going to be a juggernaut of a movie because it is very family friendly, but it has the same thing as Toy Story. It has lots for adults. It is very scary. It reminded me of, in Toy Story 3, I love the monkey because he is just so frightening, and it does that, but it like triple downs on that. It's almost like Toy Story 3, and I don't think they meant this to be, but Toy Story 3 was the experimentation of we're going to put something, and there's always been kind of creepy stuff because Sid was very creepy, but I just thought that monkey was just a bit more visceral for children, and I felt that they went, okay, let's test this out, see how it goes, and if we make another one, we're going to make it a lot more creepier. And 4, there's some weird stuff in there, and that's why I'll say for spoilers, but there's some very adult-oriented things and things that will definitely just go over kids' heads. There's a few things that are like the monkey that are just outright scary or could be depending on your child. But there's just the themes that they deal in this movie is what makes it good. Because that, I would say, all the other Toy Stories have themes. You look at Toy Story 1 and it's about acceptance and it's about kind of, coming at peace with what's going on in your life. And you can't always be in charge. You have Woody, you get Buzz thrusted into his life, and it all goes awry, right? Toy Story 2 is kind of the importance to me of like friends and family and being there for someone because Woody thinks about not going and going to Japan and being a model, but that's not his place in life. He wants to be with his friends. He wants to be with Andy, and he feels a purpose with him. And then Toy Story 3 is all about kind of for Andy, and for the toys of, a new chapter in their lives because they've never had to deal with that really. Because, yeah, Toy Story 1, you get Buzz in there and you get the Woody's Roundup in 2. But those are all, excuse me, those are all, at the end of the day, minor speed bumps, right? Woody gets over it. Woody figures out where he needs to be. You can't stop Andy from growing up. And that was the big deal in 3. But this is dealing with so many different ones in this movie that I felt that that's where the adultness comes in, and that's what made it great, and that's what made it feel like it had purpose to actually exist, because I didn't just want a good time with the Toy Story gang, because if I want that, to me, that's what the shorts are. I don't watch the shorts expecting, I need a deep, visceral, emotional meaning here. No, I just want to see the toys have some fun. If that was this movie, I would have said, just go and make 6 to 8 shorts, cut them all up, have a good time, get ready for Disney+. But the questions it asked, it didn't feel, and that was probably my biggest thing as well when they showed in the trailers, Forky being lost. I didn't want this movie just to feel like we're doing the same thing over and over again. And we're not. They do a lot of new things. So, yeah, I love this movie. I think it was a great ending to potentially a franchise, potentially some characters. But I do think it is the weakest because for me, there's just certain things that again, to reiterate, the gang, even though we have 3 movies of that gang, I feel, and that's the tough thing. That's because Woody is the focus in this movie. Like I said, it is a Logan in that sense of it is Toy Story, but it is about Woody's journey and what he's been through and what he's going through now and what he could go through in the future as far as what path do you take once the person's like once his whole purpose about having Andy, that moment of in Toy Story 2, what's gonna happen when Andy grows up, I'll still have you, Buzz Lightyear. It's easy to say that, but then now he's in this moment and it's confronting him in the face of, now I have no kid, that was my purpose, so what's next? Obviously you've seen from the trailers, Bo Peep's in there, she throws a wrench in the whole thing, and that was my biggest concern, is I just don't want to feel it retracing and doing the same things over. Doesn't do that, but at the same time, and that's where I don't know, when I sit back and think Woody and the stuff they do with Woody is perfect, but then the other things, there's a few other things that I think they didn't deliver on, and sometimes I go, could you have done that? Could you have gotten that great Woody story, but did you have to sacrifice a few things? And I would say no, because at first when I walked out, oh no, it makes sense, you have to do that because it's solely about Woody. But I feel there's been Toy Story movies about Woody, about Buzz, solely about Toy Story 1 pretty much is solely about Woody. Buzz is a huge character in Toy Story 1, don't get me wrong, and he has an arc and he develops, but really that's Woody's story about acceptance. And I didn't feel like anyone else fell the wayside, and that feels like that a little bit in this. There's a few things, like I said, they do with Buzz, and it's not even a huge character thing. It's just the little choices that I didn't love, and that kind of ties into comedy as well. But still love it. It would still be up there if I think, and that's the thing, I'd have to look and see. That is the one thing, and that's maybe the best thing I could tell you is this is a great Pixar movie. It's a great Toy Story movie. And the other ones I go with a bullet. I put those top 3, top Disney even animated, 1, 2, and 3. They're the top. With 4, I have to think about it. I can't say for sure no, but there's ones that I love, such as an Up or Monsters, Inc. I might give the bump over Toy Story 4, but I really need to rewatch it because it's just a weird movie and a lot of stuff happens, and it has a lot of layers and a lot of levels to it, and I really appreciated that. So, let's see. I guess I'll jump to spoilers now. I'd recommend it for anybody unless you just don't like Toy Story. If you just don't like Toy Story at all, for some reason, you hate the characters, you hate the look of the animation, I don't know. It is a great movie, and I think I do sound a bit negative, but it's just because this is a new experience for me, because every Toy Story, I don't have a complaint. And that's a weird thing to say. Even an Endgame, where I do love, and to me that's a 10-10 film because I've told you in the review, it's like a buffet. There's so much great stuff. I still might be, I don't know how I feel about that or how I feel about that. Those other Toy Stories, I don't have that. I don't have, you could change that, you could change that. This, you could change a few things, and it's personal preference. That's my opinion. So that's my recommendation. 3, 2, 1, I'm going to take this sip of water, and then when that's done, we'll get into spoilers. I'm going to hit the table apparently too. That's awesome. So we're in the spoilers. If you hear spoilers now, it's your fault. Go see the movie. So I guess I should start with the cons and then actually, I'm going to start with the pros actually, because I wanted to say something in my non-spoilers, but it was too, and if you've seen the movie, you're with us now, I was making it sound like Woody was dying, and I didn't want, because obviously if you've seen the movie, and I'm going to stop saying that because we're in spoilers, Woody doesn't die, but when I started comparing to Luke Skywalker, I was like, I don't know. The thing about Toy Story is, and why it is so important to me, this franchise is just, and I'm sure many other people feel this with other franchises, and this one even too, it just feels like a franchise for me, which is a weird thing to say, but even little things like I'm a big proponent of clowns and scary clowns and whatnot, if you know podcasts or my friends. So even last Toy Story with Chuckles, like, that's such a nice little thing. Like, that's such a Travis thing, or that scary monkey. Like, I'm such a horror buff. With this one, I'd have to say, just as a quick shout out, the enemies being like ventriloquist dummies. If you know anything about me, I am a massive Goosebumps fan, and Slappy is one of my favorite characters of all time. I literally told people in grade 2 to start calling me Slappy. I wouldn't talk to anybody unless if they call me Travis. No, it's a weird thing. Maybe we'll talk about it after 9. But this franchise, you look at 1 and 2, and for me and this is why I think other people my age have this experience, but if you're not, I don't know if you can have this. Those were at the time of I love my toys and everything like that, and they just grew up with me. If you're making friends, situations are changing. I can't relate to Woody wanting to go to Japan, but 1 and 2 did feel more to me kid-oriented, and in those times, and is very action figure-y, and I just love the world they built. 3 came at a time when I was graduating, so it was this very meta moment of, at that time, and I wasn't moving out at that point, but it's just that I know that step's coming. Like when Andy's mom goes and looks in the room and they have that moment, I know that's coming. That came only only 2 years after that is when that moment happened, and it's these things where it just feels parallel to my life. So 1, like I said, the little fun thing is the dummy, but 2, this one did again for 2 things as far as Bonnie and as far as Woody, because and this is where I don't get into spoilers, but I wanted to talk about this because this shows how important Toy Story is and why I still love this movie, and it might just be circumstantial, but so I have a daughter. So that's where Bonnie comes in, and that's where Woody comes in, because Woody is, and we do not exactly have the same story of a kid and whatnot, but Woody has a dilemma as far as oh my goodness, excuse me, I don't know, I had some popcorn before and maybe it killed me. Woody has multiple dilemmas, which is great because he's trying to what I talk about in non-spoilers, he has no purpose anymore. And he mentions that to Bo Peep one moment is he's not the favorite toy. That's Dolly. She's in control. So he is just he likes being played with, but now it's just this existential crisis of what do I do? What do I do now that I'm not the favorite, I'm not the one everyone looks to, and I'm not like Bonnie's main toy. And the way I liked it was because I had heard some stuff. I heard an interview with directors, and they were talking about this, and I was really worried it was going to be, oh, I'm not the favorite toy, I'm not that important, and that's not what it was about. It was him trying to just still please his child and make her as happy as possible. Even if he's not the favorite toy, what can he do? And that's one of his dilemmas. And then he has the dilemma with Forky and having to explain you're a toy and you have to be there for. But then the dilemma that really came around, and they set that up at the beginning, and the one that relates to me in the story, is with Bo Peep. And they have this moment, they show a flashback of Bo Peep when she was given away to an adult, and that's how we kind of assumed she got lost in Toy Story 3, but she wasn't. She was donated, and they have this great, very touching goodbye moment where they put her in the box, and Bo Peep just goes, she doesn't want me. This is my time's over. I got to do a new kid. And she goes, oh, a toy can get lost at any point, and she kind of moves over, insinuating he'd come with her. And this was 9 years earlier, and he does, and he has to stay with Andy. And now when we travel through, if you've seen the movie, go through the whole movie and whatnot, and we get to that ending point where he has to make that kind of sacrifice, but not really. He says bye to Bo Peep again. It's very similar. His hands are on there. She, touches his helmet, his hat, salutes it, and then he goes to Buzz. And oh man, I'm gonna tear up here. But I was bawling like a baby last night. But Buzz can just see that that's what Woody wants. He wants to be with that person. But in order to do that, he has to say goodbye to his friends. He has to say goodbye to Bonnie, and he will very, very likely never see him again. But he has to make that choice to go if he wants to go live that life. And him and Buzz have this embrace, and everybody says goodbye to him. And when and I guess I'm kind of starting at the end here. And with Bo, there's great reunions and whatnot. But that's where in my life, and it happened a few years ago, so it's kind of the reverse where the Toy Story 3 was this is what's coming for me. And Toy Story 4 was like, this is what had happened to me. And it just puts in so much perspective when I was watching I am with my girlfriend. We had a kid. I have a lovely daughter now. And luckily, unlike Woody, I don't have to stay in the circus and never see my friends again. But there is a moment, and that's even something on a personal level, that the very first year of having a kid is something you struggle with. And it's not even to the point of I don't love my daughter. It's not that I don't want to spend time with her. It's that, and I think I've maybe mentioned on other podcasts, but anyone asks me what's the hardest thing, it's not the diapers, it's not the lost sleep, it is the time management. It is the things that are kind of lost for something that's great, and that would be my girlfriend, and that would be my child, and everything like that. And it's not where it's like, oh, I have to do this. And that's the same thing with Woody. He's losing all these great friends, and he's going to miss them, but he's going on this other adventure. And and that's why that movie means a lot to me. I'm getting emotional just because in that first year of having a daughter, that happened to me. As far as, like I said, luckily I still see a lot of my friends, but I do not see them the same amount. I see, luckily with the podcast, I see these great friends all the time, but other friends I see, maybe every couple months, or some of them I maybe see 6 months. Some of them maybe I only see once a year. And it's still great to see them. It's still great to have those moments. But there came a time in my life where you just go, you have to evolve, and you have to kind of move on. And you're not moving on because though you're done with those people or because they've hurt you. It's just your life is changing and you want something. And that's the same thing. Yeah, it could have been, playing way, way weird. If I didn't want to settle down or didn't want to have a child, I didn't have to do any of that. But that's something I want to do. But with every, push comes a pull, and that's what it is. So that journey really, and I think if anyone has kids, and maybe in other situations as well, excuse me, you can relate. But that just really hit me. And that's why for me, and I hate that have to score this now. There's only been a few movies. I think there was like Dunkirk, Black Klansman, and maybe this, where most movies, because Dylan's always something like, oh, I don't do the score system. I'm always like, when I leave them, I'm like, I know the score for the most part. This one, it's hard for me. I do have a score, but I could see myself on a second watch it going up or down. You can see when we get there. But it has to sit with me, and it's just been kind of rattling in my brain all day. So that's the one thing, is Woody's journey just really spoke to me and really hit home. And that's one journey in this. He has many layers. I'll get to Buzz after, because I do feel that's a con for me, that I We have 3 movies already, so we don't need that. But I guess just for it being a send off, I wanted a little more Woody and Buzz, and Woody and the gang, but specifically Woody and Buzz. Buzz, and I guess I'll just say it now, Buzz in particular. And for me, also, I feel because Buzz is always kind of an airhead, but I felt that over the franchise, he's kind of gone more normal, more smart. I felt they made him a bit more airheady. This would have felt. This would have felt comparable to Toy Story 1, and if this was Toy Story 2, I could get it, but there's just times where they have this conversation about Woody needs to help Forky, because Forky, if you haven't seen the movie, Forky he just wants to be trash. Bonnie made him, he loves being trash, he's trying to escape all the time, and Woody's like, no, I need to make Forky stay by Bonnie so she can be happy, because Forky is now her favorite toy. And Buzz and everyone else sleep, but Buzz is just looking at Forky so he doesn't move anymore. And they're talking about, why are you doing this? And Woody's like, well, it's my conscience. And he's talking about he just wants to do this for this kid and help out, and he would feel bad if he didn't help. And he talks about it's that, and Buzz is like, what's a conscience? And that's what I like. It's getting very existential. It's getting very soul-y, and it's getting very powerful, this movie. And that's why I love they do that many times about that, and with Gabby, and about at one point they're talking about what does it mean to be alive and how does that happen. And they don't answer these questions because same thing, like we can't answer what happens when we die. I know maybe some of you may feel that way, but we don't actually know. So they, for a kids animated movie, a toy movie, they raise these questions, and it's great. And they dive into this stuff, and it's fantastic. And that's the stuff that they hadn't really done before. If they just went super deep in the last 3, especially with 3 being about growing up and moving on, they just found that cut and just pushed the knife even further into the heart. Luckily, they didn't kill us. It's like a cotton candy knife. It's very helpful. It's very tasty. So Buzz says, "Oh, what's your?" And Woody tells him it's your conscience, it's a voice inside you. And Buzz kind of thinks that's Woody's referring to his pull string. So he, in his turn, thinks that is his button. So anytime he does that, he presses that, gives him advice in the movie, which is a fun gag. But for me, it just felt Buzz was like a little dumb. And that's what I mean. It's a little calm, but for me, it just felt like Buzz was like a little more space and more Toy Story 1-ish, where I felt he is pretty matured. He has his moments, and I'm not counting when they turn him back to demo mode or anything like that. So with that, and I'll just quickly shout out here with that, and even some of the Jordan Peele and Michael Keys stuff, I liked most of it, especially when they attacked the ladies and whatnot, but some of the stuff didn't work for me. They're just so much up in the face at times, and were very loud, and that's the purpose of those characters, but not everything worked for me, and that's the thing where they are just minor gripes, but I don't have those with the other Toy Stories. So with Buzz, I wish I had him in the gang more interaction with him and Woody, and more of a, I don't know, and maybe that's where they will do Toy Story 5, so I can wait and see, but just a little bit more, and the humor was very, not hit or miss, but there was a few misses in there, and I can't specifically remember, because luckily I'm remembering more of the good stuff, but with Toy Story, usually I'm always laughing, where a lot of times it happened last night, where a lot of people around me were laughing, I'm not finding this as funny, and to me it's not an age thing, because I saw Toy Story 3, I guess it was so long ago, but still it was when I was starting to have an idea of what I like and don't like in movies, right? So that was Woody. And then with Bonnie, the other thing is why I just feel like this parallels my life as far as the movies and Travis Snail is obviously Bonnie is not Woody's daughter, but it's kind of in that way where it's a surrogate daughter. I have a daughter. And this movie multiple times is very tough to watch. And it's just, especially because my daughter is going to be turning 2 next month. So she's nowhere going to kindergarten, this and that. But the emotions they make you feel when she goes that orientation is just brutal in a good way. They just tug on the heartstrings with all the might Pixar has, and I just sat there just thinking like that's gonna be my daughter one day. And them trying to explain when she's like, I finished kindergarten, no, and about this idea of even now it's she's still small, she's just starting to talk, but the idea of Bonnie with Forky and it meaning so much to her, and with Woody being we're gonna try and do anything possible to make her happy. And that's exactly me, whether it's Paw Patrol, luckily she loves Toy Story now because she watched them with me, and she likes the X-Men animated series, but little things if she wants to watch a show, or there's some toy she can't find, or there's some certain soother that's her special one. As a parent, that's where I think for other parents it'll work as well, but for a parent, and then especially having a girl, seeing those parallels, and then later on when that one girl is lost, that is just heartbreaking. She's at a tent. She can't find her parents, and Gabby has that moment. I'll talk about Gabby too before I get out of here. Gabby goes up to her, and just just the safety of what Gabby provides that little girl, and that's where I mean that's where it's something. It's like the Matrix, where you just can't put your finger on it. The deja vu, like just this weird stuff where it feels like if my life was being made, that's why these movies are made. Because with Woody's journey is something I've been through, and then Bonnie and Woody's journey together is something that I'm going through. So and they're done, and that's where I can say, oh yeah, might say that's your bias coming in 100%, but there's other movies that do that, and it doesn't really matter. There's movies that when I had a 2-month-old murdered a baby, and I know it's very dark, but I was like, I don't feel anything because they did this so terribly in the movie. That would be Mother. So that's what I mean. Bias, yeah, it can only get you so far. It kind of gives you a little pass, but it gets you into the restaurant, but the food still has to be good. And the food is great in this movie for the most part. And those are things that, like I said, it's not a perfect movie for me, but the things that they do well, they do better than so many other than not just animated but live action films do. And I'm not sure because Golden Geeks are later on this year. I think it's, as of right now, probably my top 5 for movies. It's been a good year so far, but this summer's been very lackluster, and it is. There's not many movies other than Endgame that have reached the emotional heights that this does, and it's just impressive that they continue to do that. And that's where, for me at least, the gripes that I have with it are small, and I can still watch this and feel like this is a part of the family. Where I was worried it'd be the, I don't know, the ugly duckling, the bad apple that would not ruin the bunch for me, but still be like, oh, we had the great Toy Story 1, 2, 3, and then there was 4. And other than Endgame, I know I've said it a lot, but that's a 4th movie. I have to think because, yeah, there's lots of trilogies that end bad, but there's also lots of 4th movies, Indiana Jones, anybody, that go very poorly and can be like, oh man, it's just a trilogy. I'm happy I don't gotta go, it's just a trilogy. That never happened. Toy Story 4 happened, and it was great. I know it sounds like my overalls. I'll quickly touch on some new characters. Keanu's Duke Kaboom. He's having a moment. We've all talked about on the podcast. Everyone loves him, and I love him too. He's fantastic in this. Oh man, I forgot the name. Rajon or whatever, that child that ditches him because he can't jump. Such a good little minor storyline. Bo Peep, I liked a lot. It was I went with it because I thought they did a little revisionist history, because I feel like in Toy Story 1 and 2, she's just a damsel in distress. So it's fine now, but I don't know if I honestly too love the whole I'm going to go. It's weird because they set up, I love it now in retrospect because they set up Woody's going to go with her this time. But at the same point, they just made her feel like a lot of a wiser character. And that's good. You can do that. But then with Toy Story 1 and 2, she just doesn't feel like that. She feels like a very flat character. I rolled with it, but at the beginning, I was like, okay, I guess. Like it felt like it felt, honestly, and even though Annie Potts was playing her, it feels like when a character or an actor gets recast and it's a whole new version. I guess a character can get recast. But that's what it felt like. So it felt like Bo, but at the same time it didn't. I end up liking this new version. I was very happy that this was only early on. I didn't think that once we started going through the marketing. But my biggest fear is I don't want her to be the villain. We've seen so many times now. Well, we've seen twice. It's done differently. But I wouldn't have wanted a third time of, trusted ally. And then, no, she's a villain. I love the little life she had set up. You could see. And maybe that's what I would have maybe preferred, is showing her be that still kind of flat character and being just... Because to me, Bo Peep is she's just eye candy in the 1 and 2. She's Woody's girl who, at one point just, that's my moving buddy. It is for a comedy, but still, like, it's kind of all over the place. Like, just ditched Woody as her moving partner for Buzz just looking cool. I felt that she was a very one-note character. That's what she needed to be in those movies. And for me personally, I think I would have preferred the beginning of the movie, her still kind of be that one-note character. And then at the like when we meet her again, show after she's been gone and lost, which people have assumed is a bad thing, she's grown and she's completely different now. Where she does feel different from 1 and 2, but when they do that flashback of 9 years later, it feels like, so she's always really been part of the gang and do these adventures, where every other time she's stood on the sidelines and been like, good luck, Buzz, good luck, Woody. Like, she's always out of the action. So for me, to them retroactively kind of make her been like, she was always an adventure, I wasn't too fond on that either. I liked what her character became, but for them to be like, in the past, she was one of them. No, she wasn't really. She was a part of the gang, but she wasn't the adventure going to the streets and everything like that. She wasn't throwing Slinky and doing all these moves. So it's fine, but another kind of little gripe. I talk about Peep. And there's a whole bunch of little toys. There's those pocket, or what are those? Oh, my sister had them so many. Those minikins or popkins, whatever they are. But lots of great little toys. There's just, and I can't stress enough, love the ventriloquist doll dummies as the bad guys. They're just so scary. And that moment when they took Woody's voice box, and it's like someone's stolen his kidney, and he wakes up, he's all dazed, and there's a light over him, and they're sewing him. There's some weird fucked up shit in this movie, and it's great. It's so good. Like, it's stuff that makes the franchise unique, is they're always reinventing themselves. They're always doing something different, and that's what I love, and that's what obviously was my big worry. So that was great. Can't stress enough that I love the dummies. I love ventriloquist dummies. It's just a weird thing I have because of Slappy. Gabby, phenomenal. I didn't know how I was going to feel about this character because, one, again, back to the dummies, the setup of it feels very like Hitchcocky and very scary when Woody and Forky get there and these dummies are around and Gabby, and they kidnap him, and it's slowly building up. Well, not kidnap him. They're like, oh, we'll get you to Bo Peep. But you can slowly see the wheels turning, like, this is not what it seems. Creepy cuckoo cock. More dummies are talking about, oh, that voice box sounds really good. Hey, like, it's such a good build-up, and they just, because that's a great way they did the reverse where Stinky Pete, Lotso, very inviting, different villains. That's another day, but very different villains. With a similar motivation of, hey, kids kind of are rotten, but they get to that point in different ways. Her is the reverse, where she seems like the scariest villain of them all, and as the movie progresses, she just wants to be loved. It's the reverse. She doesn't hate kids. She doesn't want to just be looked at. She wants playtime. And there's that great scene with her and Woody. Everything Woody has been through with Andy, she just wants one moment of that. And I love that because as the generic just scary villain, that worked for the kind of the first scene, but then as it would go along, it would get old after a while. Just like, okay, you're a cool, creepy villain, but that's it. She's easily the best villain of the franchise. For someone that when it was starting, like, I don't know how I feel about this. So many layers there, and it's just great. And then when that moment, Harmony rejects her, and she's just pretty much giving up on life, and she's just going to stay there. And Woody has that great moment of, again, putting himself aside for someone that took his voice box and was kind of evil, hold Forky up to, as hostage. But he saw her motives because he understands. He went a little crazy when Buzz came in. He didn't try to kill Buzz, but he did try to knock Buzz in between the cupboards and get him lost for a little bit. So he gets it, and he understands, especially this character who's seen this love. She's looking at books of a child with her and everything like that. So her whole life, she's not experienced that. It'd be the same way as just us if we were in a box or in a glass box and we could see all these other people, but we couldn't interact with anybody. You couldn't have a girlfriend. You couldn't have a friend. You couldn't have a father, anything like that. So it was tremendously done, and I loved Woody's acceptance of her, and they're talking about it, and he puts himself aside. There's the stuff about people, there's the stuff about getting him back, but he knows this toy just wants to be loved, and she says the most noble thing a toy can be is be there for a child, and he understands that, and that's actually some of the reasons him and Bo Peep fight, because he views the children more as important. Obviously, he turns around at the end and wants to live his own life this time, do something for himself, but she hasn't felt that way. That's all she would want, and they just do that phenomenally. So that's a 2, 4. How many thumbs you can give it was great. And I don't know if there's anything more I could touch on. Like I said, just back to the ending. It was a great, very emotional ending. I cried a lot during that, but it was a good send-off. For my complaints with not the gang being used enough, I was happy they were there. Because at one point when Buzz and him were saying goodbye, I'm like, is he not going to say goodbye to any of them? And then it happened. But yeah, it was great. And like I said, it just ended with Woody. He is going to live a different life, a life he wants to experience. And it's not about Andy. It's not about Bonnie. It's about something he wants to do. It's fun. He has Bo Peep, the girl he loves. And just that moment where he picks her up and hugs her. Oh, man, it was so great. Yeah, this is a great movie. It's a phenomenal movie. I have some small gripes, and I hope if the non-spoilers people, if they tuned out, they hope I didn't dislike it too much, because I'm giving it a 9.5. So that's where I'm going. So that's where I said it could go up or down, because you never know, because especially with comedy, it can change. But this is just my initial feeling, so I'm giving that asterisk. I don't think it would go down. I think it's going to stay at this, because, like I said, my problems are little minor gripes. There was never, I take points off. This was why I got the 0.5 is because it's just like a bunch of minor gripes that build up. Buzz, and like I didn't kind of think about it, but Peach, some of the humor, like I said, not all of it worked for me, which is rare in a Toy Story movie. So those kind of build up to just take a 0.5 off, but usually like big gripes are, oh, why do they do this? Or that doesn't make sense, or a bad acting, or a bad music cue, or bad effects, like something that really stood out. So that's why I didn't get a full point off, and it's just like I said, I can't stress enough, it is a great movie. And yeah, I can't give it the perfect 10. Maybe I will one day, but as of right now, I can't just because I have those gripes, and I don't think the Bo Peep thing will change. And that's the thing; it is the weakest in the franchise for me, but it is a Logan. It is Woody and his final roundup. It's getting this character, and Forky's kind of his Xavier, the guy that's losing his mind. He's trying to take care of. It is his moment, and it's so fitting because obviously so many people put work in here. But for me, Woody being one of my favorite characters. It's just he needed this send off, and now that I think about this, I couldn't think about it without it, and that's where I sometimes feel bad. I go, oh, it's not a perfect score, and it sounds like I said, it sounds bad because all Toy Story others are, but this because I didn't know I needed this. I didn't know I needed this great Woody send off because I thought I had it in 3, and even them saying, oh, it's Woody's send off, I was like, okay, that could just be lip service, but this does just go right into the place with the rest of them and feel this is needed. This needed to exist. This needed to have the send-off. And that's what's so great because now I can't think about Toy Story without it. And that's along with the parallels of my life, which are great, but I just can't even think about now. Toy Story 3 as an ending was great, but this is even better because Woody just... It was a perfect encapsulation of that character and everything he's gone through. So instead of, and yeah, you know what? Some people might go, I would have liked it left up to interpretation. But for me, I do love endings of character. And that was hey, he's just going to keep going on Bonnie and the next kid. And that's a great ending. It was a great ending. I would say for Woody, maybe the other toys will continue on. This was even better because him and Andy were so tied, it would make sense that losing Andy and being shoved into a new life, new kid, would affect him to his core. Especially like at one point he doesn't get chosen multiple times. They say like 6 days in a row that he hasn't been played with. And you can see, and that's what. And then for the most part, everything they did, I agree with. I didn't want them to do the whiny Woody. Oh, I'm not being played with. He's not. He's adapting the situation. And still, at the end of the day, he cares about this kid, and he just shows, you know what? I want to live a new life, and I've done all these caring for kids and other people, and even the toys he's looked after. Now is my time to like take a little break and go have a good life. And I hope that's what happens with Woody. I'm fine if we never see him again. I don't think we need to. It's very much like the Logan style of this is a perfect send-off, and that's where I was looking for that word earlier when I paused. It is. It's just perfect what they did with Woody. Is the movie perfect? No. But the Woody's arc, the story, and other things, great, and his send-off was just phenomenal, and I can't imagine it without it now. So, great job. Toy Story, Pixar, Disney, you did it again. You created another great Toy Story movie. Like I said, 9.5, highly recommended. Great job. I can't wait to own this. I'll be watching it many times. I can't wait to watch them all back to back, especially if I watch back to back. It's going to be even more brutal. So, thank you very much for tuning in this review. All the links are down below with our social media or our Facebook. Or if you want to subscribe, you got on Podcoin, you got Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify. We're almost anywhere. If we're not, let us know. And then YouTube for the video. Anything you want to know about us down below. July 19th, 24-hour, 4-year anniversary stream. Marvel Alliance, cannot wait. Thank you very much for tuning into this review, all my deputies and sheriffs. And until next time, it'll not be boring.